On this episode of Carnage, we're almost ready to weld on our new rear quarter, but first, we've got some rust repair to do. Yep, we are still in lockdown, but the weather's beautiful. I'm in a t-shirt for the first time in about 6 months. Now we've got some rust repair to do, namely that dog leg up here in the pillar, the windowsill, and then down on this inner quarter panel. So we've got some work ahead of us. Let's get to the cutting, welding, and grinding. Alright, so after lots of cutting, bending and grinding, I've come up with these two pieces. Now this piece goes down here, like so, and then this piece goes up here, around there. So neither piece is cut to size at the moment. I've left a bit of extra material on both pieces, just so I can sort of shimmy them into place, do a bit of grinding, get them right. But it gives us an idea of where we can start cutting. So I'm going to cut out here, and then cut across there as well. So cut this section out so we can get some nice fresh metal in there. So I've cut and shaped our patch pieces so we can weld them in there, get some fresh metal in here. But the more I look at this piece, the less happy I am with it. It is quite pitted, it's pretty rough, and so I'm going to cut it out. It is pretty solid, there's no doubt about it. It's pretty solid, but I'm just not happy with it. So I've cut that little piece there, so I'm going to weld that in there, and then weld in our patch pieces as well. So we'll get in there, clean things up with a die grinder, just clean up the edges a bit, and we'll make this happen. Okay, so we've cut our piece out to size, we've got it in there sitting pretty good. Now, I've vacuumed inside the chassis rail, got all the excess dirt and stuff out of there. There is some surface rust in there, so I'm going to treat it with some rust converter. Now, you may have noticed that we haven't been calling it the Lockdown Wagon for a little while. That's because, I mean, Lockdown originally signed on for a certain amount of videos. We've done those videos, but also at the start of the whole COVID-19 thing, it became an issue in that they decided to shut down the factory, and it doesn't look like it's coming back. So Rust-Oleum motor spray isn't going to be a thing very much longer. So it's still available in the shops, but the product line has been shut down, which is a bit sad because it's good stuff. It is still available through Autobarn and Bunnings and places like that, but yeah, it's a bit sad that they won't be with us any longer. So we're pretty much going to continue on with the wagon, of course, but and we've still got some product to use. But yeah, unfortunately the sponsorship, partnership, whatever you want to call it, is over. It's not really a big deal. It's just one of those things that happens. So yeah, we'll treat this inside the chassis rail with some rust converter. Oh, that smell. It does not smell like normal spray paint, I'll give you the tip. Alright, I'm giving it a pretty good solid coat in there, as you may notice. Alright, so we'll let that dry and then we'll probably give it another coat in a little while. There we go. So we've given the rust converter 24 hours to dry, so that way we don't set fire to it when we start welding around there. But yeah, 24 hours of drying time. We've got our piece of steel all nice and clean, so we can get a good weld on there. So I'm going to get it in there and tack it into place and see how we go. Okay, so we've got our main piece welded in there. Nice new fresh metal. It's not the best welding, it's not the worst welding. It'll do the job and it'll look fine once we clean it up. Now we've got this little piece to go in here. So it's a little bit big at the moment, which is fine. We're going to clearance it with a die grinder. Open it up a little bit so we can get our piece in there and weld it in to suit. Right, well, we have our bottom pieces done. They're not too bad. Now we've got this piece to put in there as well. So I've got the shape about as good as I can without having the right equipment. You know, I don't have a shop bag to beat into or anything like that. So I did the curve, some of it on the bench and some of it out in the yard in the grass, beating it down, you know, creating a bit of a dent in the ground to create a shape. It worked all right. So anyway, I've got it all cleaned up. So we'll tack that in and then I'll sort of give it a bit of a hammer to get the shape just perfect, but it's not too bad. All right, well, let's tack it into place, get things going. Shit. Right, so we have all fresh metal in there, no rust. It looks pretty good. All right, so the welding is a little bit wild and woolly, but that's okay. We'll clean it up with a flappy disc, and this entire area gets covered by our new old stock rear quarter. So no one is ever going to see that stuff except you guys here on the video. So we'll clean it up with a flappy disc and it will look mint. Right, so we've got our dog leg officially patched, all new metal. Don't worry about, there's, you know, you can see the weld there we haven't really touched, the weld there we haven't touched. We've given this one a little bit of a clean up, but haven't really dug into it. There's no real need because this entire area gets covered by our new old stock quarter panel. So what I'm going to do is hit it with some prep wash, clean it up, get away any contaminants. We'll give it a wipe in a sec. And then we're going to hit it with the etch primer. I'll just give it a coat to start off with. We'll let that dry and then we'll give it another coat and maybe another coat after that. Anyway, we'll let it dry and we'll come back to it later. Okay, so we have repaired our dog leg. It is the next day. The primer's all nice and dry. We've put a couple coats on there. Looks really good. Really happy with how that's come out. And it doesn't even have to look good because, like I said before, it is all going to be covered by that new old stock rear quarter. So, happy with how that's come out. We've repaired it. We're going to move on up here to the C-pillar and then the window frame behind it. So let's move on to that, make it happen. Okay then, we've got some rust to deal with. We've got a little hole here, we've got a bigger hole on the other side at the base, and then we've got this hole inside the window frame. So it's all come about from the window rubber has held dirt in there and it's got wet and then therefore rusted. So hopefully we won't have a repeat of that moving forward, but we'll start with this little hole on the outside. So I've got this little piece here I've cut out. What I'm going to do is put that in there and then mark it with my marking pen, and then we'll cut it out, weld this piece in, Bob's your uncle. Hopefully. With the position of this rust hole, we don't want to cut through this frame rail. So what I'm going to do is make a series of vertical cuts with the angle grinder. I'm just going to use this little 100mm angle grinder with a 1mm thick cutting disc. It is an electric grinder. They are very cheap. They're like $49 or something from Bunnings. They're not very expensive at all. And they are very handy. Great for these tight little spots. Okay, you can see what I've done there. I've just made a series of vertical cuts, and then we can knock them out, like, you know, side cutters will be able to snip them out, and then we can clean it up with a die grinder. Right, now that we've got our hole cut, we've got our piece cut, I used a little file to clean up the edges, get them precise to the size of our little piece. Now our piece, being that it's smaller than the hole, will have to be attached to this little magnetic level, and we'll sit it inside the hole like so. Now we'll tack it into place, remove the level, and then I will finish welding it. I've also sprayed some rust converter inside this channel section, so that should be all fine, you know, for future's sake. But yeah, you just got to be careful. I have to do it this way because I've already dropped it in there once, and I cut a second hole where our rust hole was so I could fish it out. So we learn these things along the way. Anyway, I'm going to tack that into place, remove our level, and then finish welding it. Let's do it. Alright, so we've got it tacked into place. Now I'm going to do the finish welding. This might not be fun. We'll see how we go. Okay. It's all right. Something that I love about this particular Ryobi is that it holds the tool in the grip, like that. So, pull the tool out, change your discs quickly, never lose it. Of course, they do another model, which is the quick release one. They're good as well, but these work really well. Gotta love it. Alright, well, I reckon that has come up pretty good. Yes, you can see a little bit of the weld on the inside, and I might cut that back with the die grinder a little bit, but the rest of it is pretty spot on. Might give it a bit of a lead wipe when we're done, when I'm doing the lead wiping on the rest, but I reckon it's mint. Let's move on. Well, I'm pretty happy with how this first patch turned out. That is smooth as silk. I'm really pleased with that. Now, I've cut my piece for the inner section. I don't want to move it at the moment because it is exactly in place, and I've already dropped it inside the channel twice. No, that's 3 times, and it is a real bitch to fish out of there. So, I'm going to tack it in place and weld it in, grind it flat, and it will look fantastic. I promise. Well, that's not too bad at all, I think. It's come up pretty good. Maybe not as good as the outside piece. The outside piece, I think I'd give it a 95 out of 100. This one, I'd probably give it a 90. It's not quite as smooth, but it is pretty good. And to be honest, I don't think it's worse than anything that this car left the factory with. So we may give it a bit of a lead wipe before we're done, But other than that, that is pretty much good to go. So now we have this piece here to fix, but I think that might be a job for tomorrow. So back out in the shed today for more rust repairs, and we're going to attack this window frame here. So again, dust and water trapped under the rubber has created a bit of a rust hole there. So basically I'm going to probably extend it out to account for some of this pitting here. Now I am going to have to put a bit of a curve in our replacement sheet metal because it's curved. But yeah, shouldn't be too hard. Let's make it happen. Here at home I'm limited by having pretty much no tools at all. I mean, basically everything's at the Carnage workshop, even my own personal stuff. So what I'm doing is I've actually clamped my little piece of metal to the bar, and I've just been giving it a bit of a tap with a panel beating hammer just to create a bit of a curve in it, so we can have that curve for our replacement panel piece. It's working all right. I'll just give it a little bit more of a tap. We'll make this happen. It didn't need much of a curve, but there we have it. It has a curve. There is a slight twist to it at the moment. I'll straighten that up, but yeah, that should be good enough for our little replacement piece. All right, let's see how it sits against the panel. Well, that looks pretty good to me. So we'll tack it in, weld it up, see how she comes out. Well, that is pretty smooth, so I am very happy with that. In fact, all three patches I think have come up awesome. So, good job, Scotty. Yes, very happy. Now we have this lower inner quarter to do. It hasn't arrived yet. The Australia Post says it's on the way, but it hasn't arrived yet. Hopefully it will show up in the next day or two. It was due to arrive 2 days ago. It hasn't arrived. Hopefully it will get here soon, so we can get that in. In the meantime, I'm going to finish stripping the surface rust off this inside area, and then I will rust treat it and then give it some primer, get it ready for our quarter panel, because once we do that lower inner section, we can put the quarter panel on this car. That is where we're up to. So I need to go to the hardware store, buy some more stripper discs to do this stuff, but yeah, we are getting close. Very close. All right, road trip time.